Over the past years, we've seen a lot of people or a lot of different groups blamed for the housing crisis. At one point, it was foreign home buyers. At another point, it was developers being super aggressive. Another point, it was underinvestments by various orders of government. Another point now, it's people are saying, oh, it's international students. Yes, there's lots of different factors that go into this housing crisis, but it's something that has been brewing and developing over the past number of decades. And the way to solve it will be, yes, to look at all the different factors that contribute in different ways and make sure that all ideas are on the table. But fundamentally, we only get through this by rolling up our sleeves and getting the work done collaboratively across all the different sectors and orders of government that have different responsibilities for it.
That's the Prime Minister speaking this morning in Charlottetown. Of course, Justin Trudeau is in Prince Edward Island as the Liberals hold the retreat. Cabinet ministers in the Liberal Party gathering to try and figure out how they handle the next steps here. As you know, eventually we'll get to another election, and Canadians are getting angrier and angrier and more frustrated about the situation with housing. Now, there's new polling data from Pallas Data and 338 Canada that's coming out today that takes a closer look at who Canadians believe is most to blame for the housing crisis. Well, how does Justin Trudeau fare on that end? Let's go now to Joseph Angolano, CEO of Pallas Data. Hi, Joseph. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Did I get your last name right, by the way? Angolano, did I say that right?
Perfect.
Fantastic. Joseph, okay, well, first things first, welcome to the show. First time you're on this program, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And tell me a little bit more about Pallas Data, because, you know, I mean, I've heard some other firms, not too familiar with Pallas Data. Tell me about your firm.
Well, it's my first, it's our first poll. It's a firm that launched just last week, and what we're trying to do here is that we're just part of our job is to help Canadians understand what's going on in their world and what's going on in their society and what's going on in their politics a little better by providing good data, good survey work, and that's part of our mission. So we're brand new. I'm not new to this. I've been at this for 8 years. Have a PhD from London School of Economics, but been working for other firms. So now I decided to open up my own shop.
Well, Joseph, let me tell you something. We took great interest into some of the polling that was released earlier this week on what Canadians are feeling about Justin Trudeau and voting preferences across the country. Now let's dive into this second portion of data here on housing. So who do Canadians believe is to blame for our mess in housing?
They mostly blame the federal government. Just over 37% said that the federal government was the most to blame for the current housing crisis, and that's more than double than those who said the provincial government. And that's true across the board. All demographics, men, women, all Canadians across age groups. The only people who said the provincial government was most to blame were Quebecers, Liberal voters, and Bloc voters. They were the only ones who said who were more likely to say that the provincial government was the most to blame. Interestingly enough, housing is a provincial responsibility. As a prime minister, you didn't play that clip earlier, but as a prime minister did remind us all earlier in the month that it is primarily a housing responsibility. Housing is a provincial responsibility. A+ for on a first year political science course, but probably an F in political sensitivity. Canadians are having a very hard time not telling people anything they don't already know. But housing affordability and housing access is becoming a major problem in this country.
Well, you know that clip of the Prime Minister you're referencing, where he says, and I how did he phrase it? And let me remind you, housing is not primarily a federal responsibility. That
it is prime, yeah,
yeah,
right?
and that clip that has gone around, right, is now being used in a conservative attack ad. And I saw it yesterday, and it's an ad from the Conservatives, and it has clips of the Prime Minister in 2015, 2017, 2019, 2021 saying the opposite, saying about how the Liberals will have a housing strategy and the Liberals will fix housing, and then it ends with that clip of the Prime Minister saying, "Oh no, it's not our deal, it's someone else's deal." So,
Sure.
what's your take on politically how damaging this issue has been for the Liberals, and on the other side, how good this issue has been for the Conservatives?
It's been great for the Conservatives, at least in the short term, because it's an easy target to place the blame on housing on the federal government. Can the federal government do more in housing? Is it their responsibility? To the strict letter of the Constitution? No. Can they get involved? Yes. I remind everybody that they did put out the National Housing Strategy in 2017. Had some effect, but not much. More, the crisis has gotten out of hand. More so. More needs to be done. And look, there are two ways to look at this issue. I mean, we can wring our hands, for those of us who know politics pretty well, and say, "Wow, people don't understand how the federation works. There's a division of powers. There's federal. We live in a federal system and all that good stuff." And people are just misinformed, and this is the result of Pierre Poilievre blaming everybody. Or you can look at this as a cry for help for Canadians, right? They're looking for the federal government to provide some leadership on this issue. Yes, it might mean encroaching on provincial jurisdiction. That will certainly get Yves-François Blanchette's arms up in the air. But at the end of the day, a crisis, which this is, Trump's niceties about the divisions of powers in this country.
We're with Joseph Angolano, the CEO of Pallas Data, talking about some new polling out from his firm that came out earlier in the week, and more that is coming out later this afternoon. So we're getting a little bit of a scoop this morning from Joseph. Now, Joseph, let me just ask you about this. And it's one of the things we talked about on the program yesterday is how Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are seemingly doing better in Quebec than they were a few months back. Well, what can you tell us on how the Conservatives are doing in this province?
Yeah, I mean, what we have is a three-way tie. What we found effectively a three-way tie. We did have the Bloc at 29%, Liberals at 28%, and the Conservatives at 25%. That's great news for Pierre Poilievre. Other polling firms in the past did not have him doing that well in Quebec. This is very good news for him. Obviously, it could be a summer thing. People aren't really paying attention. People are treating the survey question of who would you vote for if an election were held today as exactly what it is, as a hypothetical, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not in the market to buy a car right now, but if someone asked me what kind of car I would buy today, I would give an answer, and it could be very different to it could be a very different model to what kind of car I would buy when it's time for me to buy a car. Mm-hmm. That said, very good news. The Conservatives are doing well at 25%. If they start doing better, a lot of seats in Quebec are going to start going to the Conservatives. If that trend continues, they're very close. Our polling had the Conservatives 9 points nationally above the Liberals. Mm-hmm. At that point, they're very close. They would win government, no question. They'd win a robust minority. They don't need much for a majority at that point, right? And it could be Quebec delivering it. They got 5 more points in Quebec. If they jumped up to 30%, a lot of seats in Quebec will start coming over to the Conservatives, and they're close. They're close to a majority if an election were held today.
And Joseph, just to wrap up here, I want to get to one of the things that you've asked Canadians. Mm-hmm. Would you be more or less likely to vote for the Liberal Party of Canada if they had a different leader than Justin Trudeau? That to me was such an eye-opening question. What's your take on your findings there?
47% said they'd be more likely to vote for the Liberal Party if it had a different leader. 32% said that they'd be less likely. These are bad, very bad numbers for the Prime Minister. Tie back to the original question. He ought to do something different. He might have to rip a page out of his own father's playbook and start doing these national policies in provincial jurisdictions, especially in housing. I mean, just to underline how bad numbers they are. among Liberal voters, those who said that they would vote Liberal if the election were held today, it's evenly split. 38% said that they were more likely to vote for Trudeau if they had a different leader. These are Liberal voters now.
Yeah.
And 40% said they were less likely. It's a tie. When your own voters are having some ambivalence towards your leadership, time to rethink things, and it's time to reset. Good news for the Prime Minister right now. Election is not going to be tomorrow. He's got time for a different legislative agenda. That'd be my advice.
Joseph, we're going to have to leave it there. Great catching up with you, and thanks so much for coming on the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
That's Joseph Angolano from Pallas Data, CEO of Pallas Data, with some of the scoop before his firm releases more polling later today.